Good morning. This is OmniView, episode 37, Balanced News Perspectives. Today is April 25th, 2026. Here's the news, the perspectives, and the questions worth asking. King Charles faces U.S. pressure over Falkland sovereignty as Trump envoys head to Iran peace talks in Pakistan. As King Charles prepares for a visit to the United States, a leaked memo indicates the Trump administration may withdraw long-standing United States support for United Kingdom sovereignty over the Falkland Islands. The development suggests Washington could instead back Argentina's claim. This comes just days before the King's transatlantic trip. British officials are reportedly concerned about the shift in Washington's position on the South Atlantic Islands, which have been under United Kingdom control since 1833. The islands were also the site of a 1982 war with Argentina. Different perspectives on this are worth noting. The Daily Mail frames the story as a major diplomatic embarrassment for the United Kingdom, highlighting the unfortunate timing with the King's visit. It suggests the Trump administration is willing to upset a key ally to improve relations with Latin America. United Kingdom sovereignty advocates argue the Falklands residents overwhelmingly identify as British and have the right to self-determination under international law. Some American conservative outlets see potential strategic value in resetting hemispheric relations, viewing the islands as a colonial relic that fuels anti-United States sentiment in the region. British commentators emphasize the 1982 conflict's legacy and the military sacrifices involved, arguing any policy change would reward aggression. The disagreement rests on whether self-determination for the islanders or broader geopolitical realignment should take priority. Both sides accept the islands are currently United Kingdom territory and that residents voted overwhelmingly to remain so in a 2013 referendum. The question worth considering is how a change in United States policy might affect long-term United Kingdom defense commitments in the South Atlantic. Shifting now to diplomacy in the Middle East, Vice President J.D. Vance has been placed on standby while President Trump sends Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff to Islamabad, Pakistan for the next round of peace talks aimed at ending conflict with Iran. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi arrived in Pakistan, but Iran has ruled out direct negotiations with United States representatives. The meetings are part of ongoing United States efforts to broker a deal. Perspectives differ on what this arrangement means. The Daily Mail presents the decision as a notable sidelining of the vice president in a high-stakes diplomatic effort. Some United States outlets interpret it as Trump relying on trusted personal envoys with prior Middle East experience rather than formal administration roles. Iranian state-linked sources emphasize their refusal of direct talks, framing it as maintaining sovereignty and avoiding perceived United States pressure. European observers note the unusual choice of envoys and question whether it signals internal administration dynamics or a deliberate strategy to keep talks at arm's length from official channels. The factual baseline is that indirect talks via Pakistan are proceeding while direct United States-Iran engagement has been rejected by Tehran. One question worth asking is why a president might choose personal envoys over the vice president for sensitive negotiations. Next, we turn to British politics, where Nigel Farage has issued a strong challenge. Nigel Farage announced that Reform United Kingdom is launching a targeted strategy to unseat senior Labour cabinet ministers, including Ed Miliband and Yvette Cooper. The party will focus on individual constituencies for the first time and says it will be ruthless in its approach. Farage stated the plan is part of a broader effort to challenge the current government. Coverage and reactions reflect clear divides. The Daily Mail reports Farage's comments directly portraying Reform as an increasingly organized threat to the Labour government. Labour figures are likely to dismiss the threat as bluster while pointing to their recent electoral mandate. Reform supporters see the strategy as a necessary correction against policies they view as disconnected from working-class concerns, particularly on immigration and net zero. Centrist analysts question whether Reform has the organizational depth to convert national polling into local constituency victories against an established party machine. The story reflects deeper tensions about whether Britain's political realignment favors challenger parties targeting specific high-profile seats. What makes targeting individual cabinet ministers a different political strategy worth considering? Meanwhile, reports have surfaced about how the United Kingdom government is handling migrant resettlement. The United Kingdom government has been relocating hundreds of migrants into rural villages without prior consultation with local residents. In one village near the Thames, locals first became aware when an Afghan man was allegedly harassing girls at a school gate. The story involves historic communities with ties to figures like Victorian poet Matthew Arnold. Perspectives on the approach vary sharply. The Daily Mail highlights what it calls secretive placement and the resulting community tensions, arguing it shows disregard for local concerns and cohesion. Government sources would likely stress the need to house asylum seekers somewhere and point to legal obligations under international conventions. Rural community groups emphasize the strain on small villages lacking infrastructure compared with urban centers. Supporters of dispersal policies argue that spreading arrivals prevents ghettoization and promotes integration, while critics counter that it imports urban problems into areas with little experience of them. Both sides agree dispersal is occurring, but they differ on consultation standards, security vetting, and the pace of demographic change. The practical challenges of housing asylum seekers in the United Kingdom and how governments should balance national obligations with local consent are questions worth asking. In London, Scotland Yard has taken a notable step using technology for internal oversight. Scotland Yard has secretly deployed an artificial intelligence tool across its internal systems to identify officers engaged in misconduct. The unprecedented crackdown has already uncovered hundreds of cases of bad behavior. The Metropolitan Police, Britain's largest force, is using the technology to improve internal standards. Reactions reflect both promise and concern. The Daily Mail describes the program as a significant technological step in police accountability. Civil liberties groups worry about the implications of artificial intelligence surveillance within law enforcement, raising questions about transparency and potential bias in algorithms. Police reform advocates welcome any tool that removes corrupt officers more efficiently than traditional methods. Some officers' representatives may view it as an overly blunt instrument that could unfairly target individuals. The core facts of deployment and results appear undisputed, with debate centering on oversight, due process, and whether technology can effectively address cultural issues in policing. What safeguards should exist when artificial intelligence is used to monitor law enforcement is a question that deserves attention. Now, to really understand several stories making headlines this week, there is something most coverage leaves out about how reality television actually operates. Most reporting on I'm a Celebrity exits and contestant complaints treats the shows as spontaneous adventures or personal journeys. In reality, participants sign detailed, legally binding contracts weeks or months before filming that explicitly cover compensation, exit clauses, editing rights, post-show publicity obligations, and restrictions on what they can say publicly. These contracts are negotiated through agents and lawyers, with larger payments often tied to staying longer or generating drama. Production companies maintain strict control over narrative through selective editing, which contestants later discover when the show airs. Knowing this changes how to interpret dramatic exits or accusations. They are rarely complete surprises to producers, and financial incentives are usually disclosed in the fine print rather than emerging as sudden revelations. The mechanism is straightforward. Commercial television networks pay for compelling content. Talent receives significant sums relative to normal earnings, and both sides accept that the edited version may differ from lived experience. Historical parallels exist in earlier reality formats where similar complaints surfaced years later, once social media allowed direct contestant voices. Next time you see a headline about a reality star's shock departure or explosive claims, ask what the contract likely says. Who benefits from the drama, what remains unseen due to editing rights, and what is the financial context the coverage might be omitting? Before we go tomorrow, watch for further developments in the United States' diplomatic efforts regarding Iran and any response from Tehran to the indirect talks in Pakistan. That's OmniView. For full source links and more context, check out today's written briefing on the OmniView summaries page. As always, compare outlets, look for primary documents, and separate what's known from what's assumed. If balanced perspectives are valuable to you, share this with a friend and subscribe wherever you listen. See you tomorrow. This podcast is curated by Patrick, but generated using AI voice synthesis of my voice using ElevenLabs. The primary reason to do this is I unfortunately don't have the time to be consistent with generating all the content, and wanted to focus on creating consistent and regular episodes for all the themes that I enjoy, and I hope others do as well.
Without taking the dive, we went on vacation. We had a nice time. My doomsday is